Probably before we get into a conversation, it's important that we shape the journey of where this conversation began. Before these numbers of women could be elected as governors or members of parliament representing a single constituencies, and by the way, even senators. For example, in Nakuru, as well as in Machakos and in Isiolo, we have women senators. Let's just have a look at the journey that shaped up the 2/3 gender rule principle.
Though women were hardly recognized in leadership and governance immediately after Kenya's independence in 1963, their contribution in the struggle for independence cannot be ignored. Little-known Priscilla Abwao was the first Kenyan woman in the Legislative Assembly in 1961, pushing the women agenda in governance.
Kenyan history does not actually record her as being there for what exactly in particular. Some of them would say that maybe she was a secretary taking notes. However, in the British press, she was known as a Kenyan suffragette. Why? She was carrying the women's agenda, and she wanted the Independence Constitution to also have provisions that would allow for women to participate in the governance and administration of the country. Of course, it did not see the light of day.
Post-independence, Kenyan women continued jostling for their placement in the political space, albeit with little success, especially during President Daniel Moi's era.
Talk to people like Sophia Abdi, who participated she wanted to be a member of parliament as far back as the early 90s, but it was KANU and President Moi and the leaders of her area at that time that held her back. Wangari Maathai, when she actually, during the advent of multi-party politics, and she was vying, and it was none less than President Moi who stood on a podium to demean her, you know.
Charity Ngilu will be remembered as the first female contestant for presidency in 1997. Gender parity, largely fronted for by the Maendeleo ya Wanawake, was a key agenda in the constitutional review process that sired the 2/3 gender rule to reflect the needs of the modern-day Kenya.
As late as 2010?
Yes. You could not confer citizenship to your child. Even if you, Mensa, had a child, gave birth here in Kenya to a child, and your husband it was not a Kenyan, your child would not be Kenyan, because you as a female citizen did not have the right to confer citizenship to your child.
The implementation of the 2/3 gender principle, as stated in Articles 81B and 27(8) of the 2010 Constitution, in both elective and appointive positions, has however been beset by challenges.
The biggest challenge that we faced, and without fear of contradiction, has been political will. You find one group in our parliament is supportive, the other group is not supportive.
Legislations to implement the law have faltered on several occasions.
We have had so many bills, but what I would call a step forward is when we have had government bills. And one of those was Duale 1 bill. Although it was defeated at the floor of the House, but that was a step in the right direction. And then came Duale 2. It was defeated. I was in parliament, but I could tell why we lost that one was because some of the strong supporters of the bill were out of the country. And quite a number of them were women. They had gone on official duty.
This stalemate led to the submission of 6 petitions to the then Chief Justice David Maraga, seeking his advice. Maraga subsequently advised President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failing to enact legislation on implementing the gender rule as provided for in the Constitution. This sparked the wrath of the legislators. On its part, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission pushed political parties in the 2022 general election to fulfill the 2/3 representation in their nominations. Even though the numbers were not met in the elective posts, the Senate met the deficit through nomination that brought on board 18 women.
When you read what is there in Senate, there are 16 seats reserved for women. And people keep on asking, why 16? It was 47 divided by 3. So that was to cater for 1/3. That was very well thought out. Although there are nominations, but that was well thought out. Now, when it comes to the National Assembly, the reserved seats are 47. Looking at all the constituencies in this country, that does not make a third at all.
The president is making the right moves. He has told Parliament, look, there's a dissolution order. This thing has to be resolved. Can you please do something about it? Parliament have taken up the challenge. They are making it, the Kenya Kwanza team have made it part of their agenda. We are following up on it because we engaged with the presidential memo. And so we expect to see Parliament tabling a bill, or at least the government side tabling a bill that will finally resolve the issue of the 2/3.
In appointments, there has been progress as well, with 7 women cabinet secretaries in 2017 and the same number in 2022, but an additional 3 more assigned the cabinet level portfolios.